Now, enough of that. We have here Dr. Roger Dillman, and we're going to be hearing from him tonight about old-time dentistry and medical care through the years. And I can't tell you the number of conversations we've had here where we would reminisce and talk about, for instance, some of us that grew up around English go to Dr. Gobble's office. Do you remember going to Dr. Gobble's office and he gets that rusty, crooked old needle out?
Yeah.
His 3 fingers.
Yeah, he cut my finger, put some in green salve on there and right to the.
And what was in that salve, right?
Yeah.
And those brown bottles?
Cow or something.
You probably had boric acid in it.
Some of that cow medicine better.
You know, I got Becky Hammonstetter just sent me a recipe of one of his things, concoctions, for the next newsletter. She actually had she knows somebody who has his book where he put together his medicine. So,
Well, I think, Bill, that may come up tonight, actually. We'll see. We'll see. And then think about your first dentist appointment. I remember going to a dentist in Gordon and sitting down in that chair and seeing all this drill and all these cords and things going through pulleys, and why, it was fascinating until he put it in my mouth. That was just fascinating. So, you know, we tell all these stories, but think about what it was like for our grandparents and great-grandparents. It was a whole different world as far as what Medicare care you could or couldn't get compared to today, which is wonderful. We're blessed to have a lot of great medical care. So Roger Dillman's going to share with us a little bit about that. But let me share a little bit about Roger Dillman with you. Roger was born in Kirby, grew up in English, and went to IU, had a dental practice in Paoli for 35 years. 35 short years or long years? Short years, okay. And he's now the pastor of the Wesleyan Church in English. And I've been reading about some of the great work that members of the church do with the food bank. A lot of people blessed by that. And I was intrigued because you have this ministry, had this ministry at least through the internet, and you've reached thousands of people around the world with that as well. Has spent a lifetime as a servant leader and making a difference for good in this world, which we all appreciate. And we also appreciate his wife Donna being here with us today. So, Roger, let us give the time over to you, and thank you for coming to give this presentation for us. Here, I'll switch the cords. Dylan, could you turn on the light for 2 seconds? I feel like I need to be a bat. There we go. That's good. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you for coming out tonight. I was born 75 years ago on a farm, about a mile and a half outside of Kirby. So we were talking about Kirby a while ago. I know that area very well. I used to ride my bicycle there, my ice cream at the Beasley store, and just a lot of memories of the Dillman Church. Grandparents are buried there in the Dillman Cemetery, and a lot of roots here in Crawford County. In the summer, Don and I, we moved back to Crawford County, and we stay out of Sycamore Springs. We'll be there all summer, and then in the winter they run us out. I tell them we're the first ones in and the last ones out. They're at the park, and she lets us stay there during the summer. And we have a good time. And Crawford County has always been that's my roots. And as you get older, you think of all the people you knew and you know. We're talking about your first dental experience. That is not my picture there, by the way. I was about 5 years old on the farm, and I developed this tooth that was hurting. And so my mother said, we'll make a dental appointment. We went to Dr. Frakes Did anybody remember Dr. Frakes in English?
I've heard it.
Really good name, yeah. And, so he sat me in the chair and said, your tooth is in bad shape, it's a primary tooth, so why don't we just take it out? I said, my mother said, that sounds like a good idea, so. She said, oh, we could do it one of two ways, we can numb it, or we can take it out real quick. And, I think I was the one that said it, let's just take it out real quick. And he did, and it hurt. And I remember yet hopping around that dental office on one foot. I just jump around that chair with my jaw, and he still had the tooth in the forceps there. And anyway, that was my first dental experience, by the way. But I was thinking of the doctors we used to have in the county, and talking to Judy here a while ago. Remember Dr. Lynch at Marengo? Anybody ever go to him? I know, just two of us, yeah. But you missed an experience. He worked all day at Veterans Hospital in Louisville. And then in the afternoon, people would come into his office right across from Fancher Street Store, you know where that's at Marengo used to be.
Yeah.
And he had about 2 rooms there. And by the time he got there, the room was absolutely full of people. And he would work all day at Veterans Hospital, come to Marengo, and then he would dispense medicine. And as we were just talking, it usually worked. But he had this great big glass flask, you know, with big pills in it. It really didn't have that many kinds. But he would give you a bunch of pills in a white envelope, scribble on there, take 3 times a day, and send you home. And then after he did that, he would go out and make house calls at night. And we used to go out and see our neighbors, the Beasleys, and they were an older couple, and they would be in bed. He would come in, turn the light on, stay in bed. He'd check them out, give them their medicines in a white envelope 3 times a day or whatever, and leave. And then he would back the next day, go back to work. My dad commuted to Louisville and said he used to pants us going back to his work, his day job, working at the hospital, and said he's always had his head over on the end of the seat like he was asleep. But he was still driving up the road. As you can see, he only lived to be about early 60s. He's buried in Doolittle Mills, Indiana, just over across the county line in the Perry County. But what a doctor he was. I tried to get a picture of Dr. Pence. I couldn't. How many went to Dr. Pence? Anybody go to Dr. Pence? Yeah. I went to him a time or two. He was on the main street of Marengo. I always remember he had his own parking spot right in front of his office. And I was always impressed with that. He had his own parking spot. Anyway, he was a good guy. He lived there by the funeral home. Had a nice farm there in Harrison County. And then who else? Oh, Dr. Gobble. I tried my best to get a picture of Dr. Noe Gobble. I could not find one. What a guy he was. He had such a big office. They always said he was going to make it into a hospital. Has anybody heard this besides me? Yeah, I heard that. Things didn't work out. And so he ended up with a big office, a dozen beds, a hospital, something like that. As you were saying, he had like 2 or 3 fingers off, and they always said they took too many x-rays with his, and very well looked at what it looked like, with it holding a film, and he suffered radionecrosis, which is where you're accessing atrophy of the digits and lose your fingers because you x-rayed them too much. And it was so Dr. Gobble, he had fingers off. His dad, by the way, was Dr. Fred Gobble. He was also a medical doctor as well. But Dr. Gobble, he was a great guy, and he could bluntly tell you what was wrong with you. And it's like you say, the shots were not always painless, and sometimes he seemed rather cavalier about the technique he used, but a lot of fond memories of Dr. Noe Gobble. I wish we had a picture there. And then my cousin Carl, by the way, let's go follow the slide. He went to, there he is on the 1919 Marengo basketball team. He's in the back row to your right, the last ball player next to the coach on the back row there. So if you do the math, he's about 17 years old there. Later on, he was the, I think, principal of the Marengo Academy at that time. He could have said the school, but he was a school teacher, went back to medical school, University of Louisville. And, he had an office there in Court. Did anybody ever go to Dr. Carl Dillman?
My grandmother did.
There you go. Yeah, he was my cousin. That is his picture there. He was a little fella and, giving a shot to somebody there. And, but he worked really hard as well, cousin Carl. Yeah, he had one lady that helped him in the office, and the people came in all during the afternoon, filled up his office, and he worked him through, did his house calls, and he loved it. That was Carl's life, having people. And he was kind of a character. His son, Carl Dillman Jr., the heart specialist, they might know him in New Albany, somebody. Anyway, you may have met him, somebody. He just retired not long ago. And then,
When did Dr. Dillman die? This Carl Dillman?
he died, my mother died in 1982. And he was in the hospital, and she was in the hospital. And he died on the first Saturday of May of '82. And my mother died on Memorial Day that same month. Yeah. Both passed away that day. And I forgive me, I had to put this one in here. That's my oldest son, Jonathan Dillman. He's a radiologist in Cincinnati, Ohio. And we were talking about later advancements, so on. He does a lot of research, whatever. Let's go on. Dr. Messina, how many went to the doctor? There you go. He was my next door neighbor. It came to English. Just a driveway between our houses. I love the guy, Janine, Jimmy, and
Yeah.
the little fella's name. My mother babysitted
Yeah,
the little boy, the
is
young.
it Jimmy and, is it Jim?
Yeah, he was a Filipino. He got his American citizenship in '64, came here in '67. Great doctor. Oh, he was like the guy. My father was so sick, and it was back then when chemotherapy was, not advanced at all, and he gave him a super big dose of that and said it would either die or live. That's what he told me. And he lived for 20 more years.
Oh.
So it's amazing. The doctor in Sines, he retired in '88, and you can see there he lived to be about 87 years old, something like that. He had a good life, and he moved to Georgia, and a doctor in Sines. I didn't care. We played golf together. I was just a kid, teenager, and he was just very patient with me at the time. But a little bit on the medical side of it, I'm not a medical doctor. I'm a retired dentist. I've been out of dentistry for 15 years. But a long time. And so you know much about this probably as I do, but advances in medicine, heart disease now, I'm just reading, I think today, that heart attacks, fatalities on the first heart attack down like 50%. The treatment that we have now for heart disease and the cancer treatment, and so much. I think my dad, how sick he was with cancer, and how primitive the treatment was then, and now they're able to diagnose it so much earlier. The surgeries are better, the drugs are better, diabetes has come such a long ways. I just read where type 1 diabetic as a teenager before insulin was 1.5 years, how long the average lived. And now you see people live with long lives because of insulin and other medications as well. So the treatment's so much better, the technology, MRIs, magnetic resonant imaging, CAT scan, computerized tomography, ultrasounds. The technology has improved so much. And another one that's coming along, that area is going to be artificial intelligence. Whether you like it or not, it's going to be something that my son, I showed you his picture there, and he works with that all the time now. It advances the treatment so much better for the patients, the machines they have. And then heart surgery. How many of my friends at my age, I'm 75, have stents or bypasses? So many of them have, and they're still going. 20, 30 years ago, it was such a big deal to have a bypass. Now bypasses are stents are the common thing anymore, and much less invasive. But medicine's come a long way. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm a retired dentist. And anyway, there's where I went to dental school. 1121 West Michigan Street. And I've been out 50 years, this is my 50th year.
Wow.
I told my wife, I need to go back for a reunion. Now, now Sue's still alive.
Yeah.
Half of them are gonna be gone, but average life expectancy 77, so. Anyway, that's the way the school dentistry is. It looked like a big old schoolhouse, and it was different from Crawford County. Right downtown Indianapolis, 1100 block West Michigan Street. They have redone it since then, and it looks so, there you go, it looks totally different. And it's much more glamorized and glass and whatever, but we went back in the old days. And the dentistry has changed so much, and you're aware of that. We used to work on patients without any gloves on. You remember those days? And no mask, and go over and wash your hands at the sink, and that is all in the past. And I remember the gloves. We started wearing gloves. It bothers your dexterity, you know.
Yeah.
You're blowing crowns on, and you're doing composite fillings, restorations, and you don't have a feel, but you get used to it. So the wet finger days of dentistry, thank goodness are over. And the instruments used to be, especially in dental school, we just take them over to this lady, and we got through working on a patient, and they put them through some cold sterilization technique, just a liquid germicide, all it was. No longer, autoclaves, steam, really sterilized them, so much better. Use of barriers, cover your chair, and all this, you know, and disposable towels. And that's, infection control is a big thing. Dentistry's advanced a lot in that. And then also dental records, we used to keep everything on paper, Don and I, and write down all the patient's history and what we did, and what they needed, treatment plans, anesthetic, and so on, what we use. And anymore, it's like going to your medical doctor, they bring out the computer, right? Start to go in and start typing away. And dentistry's going that way too. And it streamlines the practice a lot, makes it much more simple, and you don't have those bulky charts. You bring your computer out, a name or a number, whatever it is, and look it up. And the dental records has changed a bunch. And then also dental materials. You all are gonna feel like you're in the dental school here. But that's an old silver filling in a person's upper tooth there. You can see the silver, and we use those for years, and sometimes we still do. That is a mixture of they call them amalgam. It's got mercury in it. It's got silver in it. It's a mixture of materials. And the old silver fillings, you remember that? We used to tap them in, you know, and are becoming a thing of the past. We use more of these plastic, light pure composite restorations. You can see they're basically the same color as the tooth. And when I left dental school 50 years ago, those were just kind of coming out. But those get so hard. Your dentist on the old silver fillings probably told you don't eat or chew on this for so long, you know. Those, when you leave the office, they are very, very hard. Composite films, and they're activated by ultraviolet light, and tremendous breakthrough in dentistry right there. Different filling materials that we have. And then x-rays. Oh, you always see here this person here had a lot of fillings, a lot of crowns, the white part. See the white lines going up to some of the teeth, vertical, and some root canals where the nerve has been taken out. And over on this side, he's got some teeth that are missing, and some other teeth that need to be missing. And all kinds of stuff. Those were the old x-rays, and that's kind of Don and I, we used to take. And you had to use the film, of course, and you had to put them in the developer so long, rinse them off, fix her so long, in a dark room. And usually doesn't tell you in the dark room, somebody opens the door, hey, and makes your day. We finally got the automatic developer though, that really helped a lot. And self-timing and so on. But now the dentistry is changing again, and they're going to digital x-ray. Everything's going digital. They actually put a sensor in your mouth, and they will send the pictures directly to a computer, forget the dark room, forget the developer and the fixer and all that. And it eliminates the use of x-ray film and a mount. It just takes a picture of your tooth. There is some radiation that's less, your pictures are better. It's easier to store them, but it does increase the cost and sometimes a little bit uncomfortable. But that is what is coming in dentistry as far as x-rays. Dental x-rays is the digital ones. They're better. A little bit more expensive, that's the bad part about it. Dental impressions, the gooey stuff, yeah. How many's had a dental impression before? You put the train in your mouth, you know, real still, and it runs down your throat, it's an upper one. And they have now digital impressions. And instead of putting the material in your mouth, they take this scanner, this camera about the size of an electric toothbrush, and wave it around inside your mouth. And that takes a 3D picture of the tooth. So if you're doing a crown on a patient, trim the tooth down, take the scanner, take a picture of it, and put it in a computer, and then you can take that into your back room, wherever, and put that in a milling machine and have the crown ready to put on like 10 minutes. You just set up to money for the crown, come back, whatever. And this is the future of dentistry right here. Digital impressions, that is going to be, that is something now. The bad thing about it is it's very comfortable, very efficient, extremely accurate.
Very expensive.
Number 4, extremely expensive. Just the milling machine alone, maybe $100,000. And you take the scanner and tell them about that, but more and more dentists are using these, and hopefully they'll get the cost down somewhat in the future. But digital impression is another thing. These are all things that Dr. Frakes never dreamed about in his time. All things that Dr. Dillman didn't dream about 50 years ago. Digital impressions, digital x-rays, this is something entirely different, and just a great breakthrough. And then implants. Oh, we got missing implants. You have a missing tooth, something didn't work, you broke your tooth, cannot be restored. So what do? They put this metal artificial root abutment inside the bone, and then they attach on top of that an artificial crown, as you can see there, and you have your tooth back. And when I was in dental school, I worked on one of these, and I just worked on it. I didn't actually do it. The surgeon did it. It was primitive. It failed. After I left, I found out that the surgeon had to do it over. It wasn't mine, so I'm glad for that. But anyway, it's just starting, and now it's very commonplace. You see it advertised on television all the time. Implants, future dentistry. And if you are the right candidate, it's fine. You've got to have enough bone, and your sinus cannot be in the way of other complications. Implants are great. That's another thing that was just coming out 50 years ago. Oh, a couple more. The patient there at the top had some teeth that were a little bit uncomely. And what did they do? They got porcelain veneers. Those are little thin coverings that you put on the front of the teeth, stick them on there. A famous person just had his done. I read it in the New York Post. Jelly Roll. Anybody ever heard Jelly Roll? Country singer? Okay. He had just had his done, by the way, and new veneers put on. They helps your appearance. Maybe a little bit complicated, but what a difference they make there in the appearance there. Porcelain veneers. We never had those. Those were another thing that Dr. Frakes never had. And then continuing education used to be literally non-existent. I came out of school. Now the state boards require it. It's necessary. They increase your dental costs, but you need to do it. Since I've been retired for so long, when I practice again, I no longer do it. I'm just an old man. But the continuing education is a great thing in dentistry, medicine too. And then things have not yet been eliminated. The dental drill. Maybe sometime. Your teeth are the hardest tissue in your body. It's just tough to remove a cavity and prep a tooth for a crown. you gotta have some kind of instrument that will remove that enamel, and the dental drill is the only thing we have at this time. You were talking about the one, you know, that ran on the belt, yeah, before that, had ones with the trailer, you know, like the old sewing machines, you know, those long gone. These are air turbines, all the RPMs are unreal, but you still get the noise, you don't get the vibration like you used to. And they've come a long ways, but still, that's one thing that's still with us. And of course, one other thing that would be a miss, I didn't say dental injections. Yeah. Your teeth haven't hurt. Your teeth are sensitive, that's the reason we don't have toothache blood pressure. Focal exposure nerves, whatever. And to numb that tooth, you've got to put an anesthetic. Used to be Novocaine, now it's mainly Carbocaine, maybe lidocaine, but you have to put some kind of medicine over the root of that tooth that will infiltrate it and numb it, and we still haven't got away from the dental injections. So maybe someday, and we will be able to do that, but so far we have not. But those are just some things that the changes in dentistry and medicine. I was thinking the way that Dr. Lynch, he worked so hard, and Dr. Gobble, Dr. Benz, cousin Carl, look at it, they worked so hard. But it has changed so much since then. But the medicines we have, the techniques we have, the imaging we have, and I wonder if, what do we like 50 years from now? It's gonna be like the Jetsons anyway, you know. So many things. And maybe like the guy on Star Trek, you know, scanning, getting almost that place right now. But a lot of changes, and hopefully someday we'll get rid of the dental injection and a handpiece, and it'll be even better. But these are just a few things that have changed in my lifetime, and hopefully things will get better in the future as well. Thank you.
Can we ask some questions?
Sure.
Okay. Well, one question I have is, so if you had been a dentist in 1900 here in Crawford County, could you tell us a little bit about what your office might look like and what you might be doing in it?
In 1900, it would have been the drills and everything would have been belt driven. We used Novocaine for the anesthetic, if you had it. The needles would have been bigger and more uncomfortable at that time. They reduced the size of those a lot. The procedures would have been simple fillings and extractions more than likely. In the 1800s, at some time in there, the barbers actually did a lot of the dentistry out, especially in the western states. And so it was a rather primitive setup, you know, but a lot of extractions would have been it, taking teeth out. And then simple restorations, but not so much the restorations, but I've been probably more extraction than anything else, unfortunately.
Well, look, when I was a little kid, I was just bug-eyed when Dad took his teeth out of his mouth. He had false teeth.
Yeah.
So it seems to me that when I was a little kid, a lot of people had false teeth. Was that true? That a lot of people did?
Fewer now, much fewer, yeah. When I was in dental school, I was always fascinated by Dr. White. He was the only instructor in the dental school I ever met who had full dentures up and more, and then we lost all his teeth. He was a great instructor, and what did he teach? Full dentures. Prosthetics, we called it back then, you know. That was his specialty. He said, my teeth were just soft, I got cavities, and we couldn't stop them, and my teeth are gone. So he had a full set of dentures, and every 2 or 3 years, he would make himself his own customized set of teeth. You know, that you know, Dr. White. He was a character, yeah. He's the only guy there that had full dentures in the whole school, you know, and had a bunch of instructors there. I was always fascinated with that.
I wonder if, you know, John, we have a great Uncle Eli McDonald, who he was 39 when World War II was winding down, and so he they were stopped drafting really older guys then, but they drafted him down to Louisiana for boot camp. Anyway, he got there. His teeth were all bad. So as a dentist, the Army dentist pulled every one of his teeth the first day he arrived. Right? So no Novocaine, no nothing. I wonder, as a dentist, how, if you had been an Army dentist, would that be a typical kind of thing? Like, okay, recruits got bad teeth, out they come.
And earlier, back in those times, probably they took a lot of teeth out, could have been saved later, you know. Yeah, there was, Army dentists have a bad name.
Yeah. So does the Air Force. I had one.
There you
I had an
go.
Air Force tooth that lasted for 32 years, so
Oh.
now I had new teeth. You know?
And probably there was a lot of periodontal disease too.
Yeah, gum infection.
They didn't, dentists didn't clean teeth,
Oh,
so.
when did
Where
that
your
start? When did they start cleaning teeth?
Well, they probably were really the emphasis, 40s and 50s, I would say.
I remember one day we had a patient come in and he had a tooth in front that was loose and he made an appointment to come back that afternoon to get it pulled.
Mm-hmm.
And he came back right before lunch and the tooth was gone. He said, I don't think I need the appointment now.
But dental school, it was, to me, it was a big adjustment. I was from a small county, Crawford County, you know. I love it here, but it's a rural county. It's no large towns or anything like that. And then when you get to dental school, there were only like 100 of us in the class that graduated each year.
Wow.
And they were from all over. My roommate for 3 years from Hilo, Hawaii.
Oh.
And his mother was Hawaiian, his dad was Chinese. He'd been in the military. They had a lot of experience I never had, to be honest about it. And we had one guy, Bitar, his name Bitar, he was from Kuwait.
Wow.
We had international students there, you know, people I had never been places, done things I've never done. And so it was a kind of a mixing pot, and it kind of, I had to get adjusted to it. But one of my best friends there, he was, his name was Fred Walters, and he came from, his dad was a professional composer.
Huh.
He lived in Hollywood, Florida, which he said at that time was the richest county in America.
Not anymore.
Or capitalized. He had a degree from Northwestern in music. So Fred was not only becoming a dentist, but he was also a professional musician. And when professionals came and did their shows there in Annapolis, they would actually have him come and play viola. Isaac Hayes, you might remember him back.
Yeah.
Carol Chan, remember her? He played for them, you know, different ones like that. So, yeah, you know, go ahead.
When I was in the Army, I got my age. They just put a trough there and all of them together, or that full.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I've heard that the Army didn't, they were kind of primitive. Go ahead.
How long did you go to school for? I have a friend of mine who's just graduating from U of L. He's a dentist school, so he's just about to finish up this next month. 9 years.
My oldest son, I showed you his picture there. He gets a kick out of this. He's got a degree from Butler University, and he's a medical doctor in chemistry. He's got a master's degree from University of Michigan and something else. He's got an MD degree from Indiana University, and then he's a specialist in radiology. Well, when I went to school, great question there. I'm glad you asked that. You're supposed to have a bachelor's degree to get into
Right.
school, you know. I found this loophole where in 3 years, if you took certain courses, you could get in dental school without a college degree.
Really?
Yeah. And so I made sure I took all those necessary courses. And after 3 years, I went and interviewed for University of Louisville and Indiana University, and they said, you could come to school. So I actually graduated from Indiana University with a doctoral degree, and that's the only degree I've got. I don't have any undergraduate degree. My son likes to tell that story to his comrades. My dad's a doctor out of college. But anyway, that's a good, yeah, the Army doctors, they were kind of primitive.
They were rough.
Whatever. But Fred and I, we came from tough, different backgrounds, you know, he came from a well-to-do family and all this, you know. He had a music career, he also had a dental career, and I came from a smaller community with no college degree. But the two of us were always best friends.
Yeah.
And we stay connected forever, and he's just a great guy.
That's awesome.
It's amazing in a place like that, you know, when you go there, the people you think you have nothing in common with, it's not gonna work out. And my buddy in Hawaii, he passed away in his 40s, had a heart attack, and so did my classmates, all gone. But the people, there was a great mixing pot, just 100 of us there.
Yeah.
We spent all our time together for like 4 years. So. But I spent 3 years undergrad, 4 years in dental school, 7 years.
Yeah.
Glad.
Can I tell you about my little experience with
Sure.
Dr. Frakes?
Yeah.
I already told John.
It's great.
Oh, I think I was probably in the 7th grade, and we grew up really poor. And I had a tooth that was bothering me really, really bad. And Mom said, Bertie, she said, all I got's 50 cents. She said, I don't know what to do. And she said, when we go to school tomorrow, and she said, leave school and walk down to the dentist's office and ask him if he'll pull that tooth for 50 cents. And I went in there, and he was working on a man, and I told him that, and I think he probably had to turn around and keep from laughing at me. And I know the guy in the chair was he was laughing. But anyhow, he said, let me finish this guy up, and then he said, I'll see what I can do for you. Well, that guy, he got him out of the chair and out, and he said, well, get over here. So, and I sat down, and he put a little pink stuff on my gums, and he pulled that tooth out, and it just kept bleeding and bleeding out. Of course, I'm still drinking the water and spitting it. He said, in a little bit, he said, okay, he said, that's enough. He said, I think you got your 50 cents worth.
Dr. Frakes, I think, built the stone house.
Yeah, North of English.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
the Frank's
they're
house,
out
Frank's
there.
house, yeah.
Golf course owns it now.
Yeah,
Mhm.
they're Cloverleaf.
Yeah.
So was that his widow, his wife who lived there then?
I think so.
Okay, I always knew it was Mrs. Franks who lived there, but I never knew who.
I think he built that later in his career.
Okay, it was always like that.
Fine guy, yeah.
Any other questions?
Do you remember Dr. Beekman?
Oh, yeah, he was a good friend of mine.
He was the first dentist I ever went to. Dr. Beekman, when he came to English, when they built the new building, he was the first one.
When I graduated from dental school, he said, you know, I want you to come and practice with me. And I said, no, I want to go on my own. And, yeah, he was a great guy.
Yeah, yeah, he was super tall. Remember, he drove that little car, and you get out of it, you think, how did he fit in there?
Great hands, he had great hands.
Yeah, he was a good dentist, yeah.
Dr. Roger Dillman, thank you very much.